We're going to talk about top stories, top comments on our channel, and what shaped Oregon in 2025. If you want to know more about what it's like to live in Oregon, focused around the Portland, Vancouver metropolitan area, this is the channel for you. Welcome back to the channel, Living in Oregon. I'm your host, Seth Marchant, licensed real estate broker in the state of Oregon and Washington. Or if you're new to this channel, Living in Oregon, we've got over 200 videos on our channel. We release new videos every single week that show you what it's like to live here. Pros and cons, cost of living, neighborhood tours, everything you might need to know if you're thinking about relocating here. So make sure and subscribe to the channel. If you have questions, of course, I invite you to reach out. You can call, text, email. You can hit that QR code. It'll take you to our website, or you can find more information below in the description of this video. Okay, all right, so let's jump into it. What are some of the things that shaped Oregon in 2025? Then we'll get to comments on our YouTube channel. And finally, I'll end with some of the top articles of 2025 for Oregon, so we can kind of see what people that live here are focused on. All right, so let's jump into it. We're going to start by talking about a handful of different things that shaped Oregon in 2025. Then we'll review some of the top comments on our channel to see what our viewers are expressing. Then finally, I'm going to go over an article from the Oregonian, which lists their 10 most read news stories of 2025. So the first thing, I think this thing that we saw on the news the most, and the Oregonian's probably going to also reflect this, is the federal intervention and protests specifically around the ICE building in South Portland. We did a couple videos kind of roughly covering this. If you want to check those out, this made a lot of national news. Frankly, I'm not even sure where we're at with that. It feels like it's died down a little bit over the last couple of weeks. I'm sure it'll pick right back up in the new year. We had some key legislation this year that was controversial, specifically a bill funding ODOT, Oregon Department of Transportation, for $4.3 billion. Which is currently under petition. Petitioners are challenging a transportation funding bill that Governor Tina Kotek signed that will raise $4.3 billion over the next decade to fund road maintenance and operations. Democratic lawmakers during the fall special session passed this policy to fill an estimated $350 million deficit within the agency caused by declining gas tax revenue and rising maintenance and construction costs. So if the Secretary of State ultimately certifies that the petitioners have gathered enough signatures, the emergency funding that legislature provided to keep the Oregon's roads, bridges, and transit systems safe and working will be suspended immediately, Kotek told the Capitol Chronicle. So the big thing that I hear about this, that the complaint with this is that I've heard a lot of people that say that ODOT has enough money, but the funds are just being mismanaged, so that's really the big contention here. Just anecdotally, it always seems like people are pretty in favor of taking care of the roads. In fact, we hear quite a few complaints about poor roads and potholes and things like that. Why doesn't ODOT fix this or fix that? So I think there's certainly a strong sentiment for the work that ODOT is doing. There's just been kind of complaints about how the money has been spent. So that has been dominating the news, at least for like the last 3 or 4 months or so. Other big thing this year, we got a new mayor. Portland's new mayor ran mostly on ending homelessness. He's coming up. He's right about at his first year in office. And I think I should say specifically ending unsheltered homelessness. In other words, just getting people off of the street and into shelters. Where are we at with that? Well, there's still a lot of people on the street. I understand that they have opened up it sounds like enough shelters, or what they believe is enough shelters, to get everybody off the street. So I guess that is the next step. So we'll see what that looks like in 2026. Next thing that shaped a lot of 2025, the weather. That's something that always gets talked about in Oregon. Wildfires, flooding, just like everywhere else in the Pacific Northwest, we do get wildfires, although you don't typically see them really touching like the Portland metropolitan area. We did see some smoke in the Portland metro area a couple of years ago. First time in my lifetime And right now we're experiencing a little bit of flooding around the Portland metro and a lot of flooding around the Oregon coast. Flooding not totally uncommon, but right now we're getting what is called an atmospheric river. In other words, there's a lot of rain coming down in a short period of time that's causing flooding. Another thing that got talked about quite a bit this year, slow job growth and economic challenges for Portland. We've covered this on the channel as well. Portland has had and does have some of the highest commercial vacancy in all of the country. We've got some of the highest taxes in Portland proper, and do have the highest taxes if you count business owners and what business owners are paying taxes for in Multnomah County. And just economically, Oregon has not ranked very high in 2025. So a big challenge, and something I think is going to be on the radar for a lot of people in 2026 is how can we turn that around? Let me take you through some of the top comments on our channel for 2025, and then we'll get to the top 10 most read news articles of 2025. And there it is, like we hear so much of it. The weather is a huge part of the reason I moved here. I hate the sunlight, heat, and snow, and love the mountains, moving water, and temperate rainforests. Growing up in Portland, I couldn't wait to get out, and now after living 4 years in SoCal, LA for 2 years, and OC for 2 years, grass is always greener on the other side. Wife and I cannot wait to get back. Yes, the homeless drug issue sucks, but the slow pace of life and absolutely gorgeous Oregon nature makes it more than worth it. And yeah, the food is unreal, so much better than LA and way easier to get across town. I'm sure it is easier to get across town. I thought you guys had pretty good food in LA. I thought that we were right there, kind of neck and neck with the culinary scene. I've lived in the Bay Area for almost 8 years, and I'm so sick of this dry air. Rain actually is the reason I'm considering moving to Portland. I'm moving back to Oregon next year from Tennessee. I've been here 2 years. I miss Oregon so much. I lived there 15 years. A lot of people like that comment. Okay. I've lived here for 14 years, moving from Minnesota. What I like about Portland is that it's like living in a garden. We've got some pretty good gardens here. Most people turn their lawns and even their parking strip into gardens, and the flowers start blooming in early February. I'm a gardener, and this is such an amazing place to be for plants. And the first time I saw pears, figs, and cherry trees, I decided to stay. The worst thing is not the homeless problem, which I think will actually turn around based on the research I've been keeping up with, but the cost of living. For a family of 4 to live comfortably here, you have to make $257,000 a year. That's outrageous for most families who want to move we want to move because our house is tiny, but we like our neighborhood, and the house costs $750,000 to $1 million for a 3-bedroom. So, all right, so average prices in Portland are like around $600,000 for a single family home. So when this person says $750,000 to $1 million, 3-bedroom tiny house, I assume that means that it's an older home too. I mean, there's only a handful of places that might be, perhaps somewhere around northwest Portland. There's a few places, maybe small pockets in southeast Portland they could be thinking of. They could also be thinking of Lake Oswego as well. And kind of any of those areas, the cost of living, in order to afford $1 million home, you probably do need to make about $250,000 a year right now with a family of 4. But for Oregon or Portland proper, just kind of like your average neighborhoods, $250,000 a year, I think it's probably about half that actually to live comfortably in Oregon. My brother came from the East Coast to do a Portland-LA road trip and visit me in SF along the way. First thing he said when he got to San Francisco, said that Portland makes SF nice in regards to the homeless situation. So the first thing he saw after leaving the airport was a screaming naked man on a street corner swinging a machete around. Really makes me sad it came to this. Yeah, I mean, I've seen that a couple times myself. Is there a bunch of naked people running around with machetes? Like, if you came to Portland, are you probably going to see something like? Probably not. I mean, but it's I've seen that a few times myself. So I hear what that person's saying. All right, so I live in Portland. The traffic he mentions is nothing compared to the big cities like Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, etc. I moved here from Los Angeles, and the traffic will extend your time by 10 minutes, which is nothing compared to hours of driving and bumper to bumper in big cities. That's true. You hear some complaints about traffic around here, but it is I've been to LA quite a few times. It is nothing compared to LA. One of the nice things I think about the traffic around here is you don't get too much gridlock. There's not too much just like sitting bumper to bumper. You're just not even moving. I think where I see that the most is the I-5 going from Oregon to Washington. Sometimes I'll see the I-5 like backed up for miles, and it seems like cars are not moving that much. But for the most part, at least when there is congestion, you're moving. I had a stark reminder recently of how irritating gridlock can be. I thought that maybe going to the mall a couple days before Christmas, I figured people don't really go to the mall anymore. I haven't been to the mall in years. I thought going to the mall a couple days before Christmas would be maybe an okay thing to do. Figured that everybody shops online. There's probably not that many people that'll be at the mall. Well, I was wrong. It took me at least twice as long to get home, and there was traffic where the light would turn green and traffic is backed up so far that nobody can go. Like you just have gridlock on top of gridlock. And I haven't experienced that in years, and a reminder of how irritating traffic can be. So I hear what that person is saying. More cars in lanes makes worse traffic, not better. We need trains. Wonder if that person lives somewhere where there's lots of trains. All right, and then I got a few more here, and we're going to get to the article, Top 10 Most Read Articles for 2025. So I asked AI connected to our YouTube channel if they could point us to maybe some of the more controversial comments. And they gave me a handful of comments that they said were controversial. The first one said, I'd rather do a 5-year prison sentence than be sentenced to Portland for 5 years. Dangerous and uneducated officials leads to a poorly run, dangerous place to be. No thanks. Callie, please don't come to Oregon. You're trashing it. We can't afford these housing prices. You're making Oregonians homeless. I get it. You come from a place you destroyed, and you're used to thousands of homeless. You ruin everything everywhere you go. Work with a lot of Californians, helped a lot of Californians relocate here. That is a thing that comes up. Sometimes Californians will say, well, what, is there like this negative sentiment? You know, am I going to be harassed when I move here? And the answer is just generally no. You know, I think that's a little bit exaggerated. I've got tons of California license plates in my neighborhood, lots of Californian transplant neighbors. You know, they're great people. We all get along. You do occasionally see these sentiments online. Just don't really kind of actually bump into them in real life very often. Move to a hardcore West Coast death spiral town that will never legislate proper civic order laws, ? Never enforce the law to a sufficient degree. You have zero idea how a society prospers. Portland is a literal avatar of decay. I don't even include the Antifa issue in the calculation. Everyone with any sense I know is long gone. And I advise people who see any Portland signs, permanent homeless camps, street dealing in the open, town council that incentivizes homelessness and crime, to sell their in-city properties and move 20 to 30 minutes outside of town. Rentals included, just duplex up or move to where they enforce civic order. All right. The ICE facility looks like a U.S. embassy in the middle of a foreign country we're at war with. The area is technically a war zone right now. Okay. Heard the Oregonian, Oregon Lives, which is their website, OregonLive.com, 10 most read news stories of 2025. Let's give you an idea of what Oregonians are paying attention to. So 7 of these top 10 articles all sort of revolved around the same topic. Number 10, Oregon's general testimony that the National Guard troops will be protecting any protesters gains traction online. Number 9, read the text between President Trump and Oregon's governor over the troops in Portland. And we're skipping to 5. I think they did this, because 8, 7, and 6 were different topics. So 5, Oregon sues to block Trump from deploying troops to Portland. 4, exceeded his authority. Judge issues injunction blocking Trump from sending National Guard to Oregon. 3, judge issues new broader order barring any National Guard from relocating to Oregon. Number 2, appeals court sides with Trump on troop deployment to Portland ICE building. Number 1, Trump says he'll send troops to Portland, authorize full force. Feels like it's just been back and forth, back and forth. Yes, it's been hard to keep up with all that. Okay, so number 8 was Oregon softball coach suspended after confronting 11-year-old player on the field. Number 7, Portland pays nearly $1 million to injured boy and babysitter who strapped hammock to lamppost before it collapsed. And not sure why these 3, they included sort of like blurbs, but they didn't with the other 7. But this one just kind of caught my attention. Like, what is going on here? 3 years after a babysitter strapped a hammock to a city lamppost that then toppled onto her and her charge, Portland paid the woman and boy who were harmed $942,000. Attorneys for the woman and the boy contended that the city failed to warn the public of the dangers presented by hundreds of city's historic lampposts. All right, so this one, when it happened, published July 21st, I didn't hear about this. I don't know anything about this. I hope we did something to rectify this. I hope that now the city has since warned the public of the dangers of these lampposts, or perhaps even better, done something to reinforce these lampposts so they're no longer a danger, so that we don't have to pay people $1 million every time they fall on somebody. That's just kind of where the mind goes when you read this. But okay, one of the more odd stories. And then finally, Portland teacher who was sexually harassed by middle school boys settles lawsuit for $300,000. All right, well, those are some of the things that shaped Oregon in 2025. If you want to see what's going to happen in 2026, make sure and subscribe to this channel. We release new videos every single week. And of course, if you have questions about buying or selling a home in Oregon or Washington, you can call, text, email. Find all of our contact information in the description below. Hit that QR code to go to our website. I hope you had a great year. I know I did. I'm excited for 2026. I hope you have a happy new year. I'll talk to you then.